0981. That is the WhatsApp number. We're also streaming on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can drop a comment there as well. I'll take that. I'll take those as alongside the WhatsApp messages. All right, joining me this morning to analyze the stories and, of course, give his own 2 cents, as it were, on the matters. AB Bozimo is in the building. Good morning to you, AB. Great to have you on a Monday morning.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there. Let's make this a meaningful money-making Monday.
Meaning money making Monday. Money is on my mind. I don't know about you. Christmas is in 9 days' time, so we need to put 1, 2, and 3 together to make things work. To have a great Christmas celebration. Uh,
Indeed.
and just to add here that you really should jump on YouTube because AB has been showcasing some architectural masterpieces in the last couple of days as his background picture. So if you want to see some architectural masterpiece, AB is an architect. So I mean it's befitting that he actually does that. So head over to YouTube to see some wonderful buildings. AB, what is this building that is on this morning? I need to ask.
This is actually a government building in Washington, D.C. I walk past it every day. It's lovely, and I just love the architecture, the way they have carved out the facade. It's right there on the main road leading down to the White House, and it's a thing of splendor in my view. It
A
has
thing of
public
splendor.
sectors. It's lovely.
Well, I mean, to see how lovely it is, once again, you should jump on the YouTube and, of course, keep it tuned with us on Freshly Pressed. All right, Amy, let's get into the heart of the matter this morning. We'll be starting in the punch and take a look at this story. Has to do about cash. We talked about something similar last week. I'll bring that in at some point. Now, Nigeria continues to face a cash scarcity despite a significant year-on-year increase of 1.59 trillion naira in the amount of currency held outside the banks. Now, data from the Central Bank of Nigeria's money and credit statistics show that a substantial proportion of currency in circulation remains outside the banking system, with more than 90% consistently held outside formal financial institutions in 2024. Now, I know that last week we talked about this where a House of Reps member raised the motion that the CBN needs to do something about the situation as soon as possible. And of course, when these issues came up, the first thing that came to my mind, probably mind a lot of Nigerians, was the 2022 cash scarcity that we had. Yes. So this is something that is an issue right now. And of course, this is a period where Nigerians are using money quite a bit, cash to do this, do that, Christmas spending, and so on and so forth. So, AB, I mean, what's your perspective on this particular matter here?
The first question I had when I saw the story, they say this money is outside the banking system. Where's the money? But the second thing is, if a system exists where 90% of the cash is outside of it, we're saying fundamentally that there is either very little confidence in the banking sector, or frankly, when it comes to cash in circulation, the banks have totally failed. If you were in school and you got 90%, your parents would be so proud of you. If you were in school and you got 10%, which is what's remaining, your parents will be very, very unhappy.
Mm,
If the banks are somehow unable to capture the business and transactions from 90% of, dealing with 90% of the amount of money available, then there is a huge gap in terms of what services they purport to provide and what the people need. They're saying this money is 90% consistently outside the formal financial institutions. You will remember, just like you said, when the currency changeover was proposed by Buhari, at that time, during Buhari's administration, it was reported at that time just how much currency started flooding into the banking sector. Even then, I argued that there were potentially some merits to that entire thing, but the way it was handled was completely and utterly boneheaded. It was poorly executed,
mm,
unfortunately, like many other things in Nigeria. So Question: if you have over 90% of the currency in circulation, where is it? Does that not expose a lot of people to security issues? Because if people feel that there's more money here than inside the bank, why bother going to, you know, there are people with bad minds that can go after
Of
who they
course.
suspect has this cash. And we don't know who this may be. And it also means that a lot, in fact, the majority of transactions are off the books. We have the government talking of tax reform, putting charges on this and that. If you don't even see the money as it's being transacted, whether it's to buy a car or to buy a mansion, will you be able to properly tax it and monitor transactions? I think this is a major failing on the part of our financial sector managers. And they need to go back to the books and understand what is that gap in confidence that Nigerians have in a banking sector and plug that gap so that you can bring more money. And it should not be a forced system like what we had, during that currency change. But 90% of the banks, that means people have zero regard for whatever the banks purport to be selling in terms of services.
Hmm. All right, AB. Now, on the flip side here, I mean, efforts have been made over time to promote cashless transactions, but it doesn't seem like a large proportion of Nigerians are actually biting at this one. And looking at the fact that we have this much cash in circulation right now just shows that there's probably, as you said, a distrust in the should I say, the cashless system of doing things. Now, you are in the US at the moment, and of course, they have a different way of doing things. I mean, like they say, cash is king, but at the same time, I want to believe that you do a number of transactions, cashless, and so on and so forth. I mean, what more could be done here to, should I say, push that narrative to people to say, hey, go cashless. It is safer, it is better, and so on and so forth. Because it seems like a lot of people are not biting.
A lot of times people have had failures that have happened during some of these electronic transactions. And that I think can be one of the major things that people just decide, you know what, this is not going to happen a second time. It can be quite embarrassing to have a transaction you propose with somebody, you send the cash, it seems to leave your account. The other person starts complaining they haven't got it. And then you go to your bank and you're told it'll take 7 days. They took the money instantly, but it'll take 7 days or more. And if you go on many of these social media sites, find people asking the banks, why is my X Naira trapped? Why is my Y Naira trapped? There is a great disconnect between the rights of a consumer and the banks. The banks have 7 days, 24 days. I remember having 20,000 trapped in a bank for over 4 months. Why?
Oh, man.
20,000 for over, and it was with constant emailing and visiting branches before it finally was released. Why? But it was taken instantly. You see, until the banks have more of a reason to serve the customers, they will just continue with this kind of slow walking. I think that is a main. If whenever something works, when you pick up your phone now and send an SMS, it tends to go. So generally, you don't have a problem using SMS, but cash transactions can be much, much more tricky. And if we don't have that sense of certainty, then they'll always be available, but people will look at them in a peripheral manner. That's what I think. The banks have to have more consequences for failure to deliver the service as proposed. When that happens, then people may begin to trust them more. I think right now it's a huge mistrust. It's a huge mistrust because lots of efforts have been done, like you say, but people just don't a lot of people don't take them as seriously as they may.
All right, thank you for sharing those thoughts, AB. All right, let's jump into some more stories here, and this is going to be a two-in-one because we're going to be talking about ECOWAS right now. First of all, we'll start in The Guardian, where it says, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, Nigeria has fully met its financial obligations to the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, paying 100% of its community levy. Now, the payment totaling 84 billion naira and 54 million dollars covers Nigeria's contributions for 2023 and extends through July of 2024. Now, this announcement was made by the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Toure, during the 66th Ordinary Summit of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government held on Sunday at the old banquet hall of the presidential villa in Abuja.
Now, there is echo that was, and there is echo that's remaining that is, because a number of those people, like the other story will say, have left. We are paying our dues. That's for the community levy. That's good. We're a founding member. ECOWAS, was this group of people in the West African region that were supposed to be coming together to foster economic cooperation, collaboration, and growth in each of the countries. In the recent times, we know some countries have actually left ECOWAS. In fact, that is as I said, it's two in one story. It's nice on record to hear that we paid it, but the question will come in the next story as to what extent has ECOWAS actually promoted economic activity and performance in its various constituent countries? These are questions waving in the wind. So we've paid it 84 billion naira and $54 million. These are not small sums. I mean, for a
Mm,
nation like Nigeria, you could say, okay, it's not, it's maybe not that big, but it's still significant. If you divide 84 billion naira into 36 states, you get a certain amount of nearly 3 billion per state. And if you put 3 billion per state towards healthcare or education, I dare say it will be decent. I don't know how much is needed to fix our electricity infrastructure, but if you took $54 million, converted that into naira, and applied it to our electrical system that's always croaking and groaning, once every month on average, maybe we could have improvement. But we have chosen, again, leadership, right, will always find different challenges. The measure of the quality of the leader is what they decide to prioritize. In my view, ECOWAS, as structurally, significant as it is, or it has been, is not what I would have considered to be a priority at this point. But I'm not in the seat. The president has decided that this is what he feels is important. An ECOWAS that is literally denuded of a lot of the Sahel countries. He is paying into it. Let's see what can come of it. And I would like to talk about that in the next story.
true that. Let's just quickly touch on the next. No, let's take a quick break. When we come back in, we'll talk about the next. I thought it's a two-in-one. When we come back in, we'll talk about that and a lot more. Keep it tuned to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. I thought we could sneak in the second one.
Yeah, I looked
Time.
at it. No problem. It's a I won't have a lot to say, just something, one main thing, because from what I'm hearing, what's happening in those countries seem to be better for them after leaving ECOWAS than when they're in ECOWAS. They are paying off debt. Their people are getting better things. So you wonder, they seem to be better off outside of ECOWAS. But we'll talk
Mm.
about that.
98.1.
All right, a quick turnaround. You're welcome back to Freshly Pressed on Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Your love music, love live station. It's a Monday morning. Ayokunmi here. AB also with me this morning, taking a look at the stories that are making the rounds in the papers. And of course, we are looking to you to also share your thoughts on them. WhatsApp is the platform to do so, or one of the platforms to do so. You can send the messages into 0809 444 0981. YouTube, we're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. So drop your comments there also to see the architectural masterpiece that is AV's background right there. And talking about that, Hardy Media says, I had to come check the architectural building. It's really nice. See, AB, so somebody appreciates appreciates that. Ayo from Festac says, Architect AB Bozimo FNIA PMP walks past that building every day, and we're here walking past dilapidated buildings. There is God. There are beautiful buildings here in Lagos now.
Beautiful buildings, exactly. We'll showcase those
Nigeria,
too.
there are
Absolutely.
beautiful buildings. Calm down now. Calm down. Let me take a couple of messages. Adiwali says a huge percentage of the cash is with POS operators. They are kings now. I mean, you go to the banks, you don't find too much money. POS operators have a lot of money in hand. I mean, that also is a factor. Who's talking?
90% though. Jeez.
This says, I think we're ignoring the elephant in the room on this cashless issue. Mistrust aside, we all know there's loads of cash in the hands of a few politicians. Let's be serious. Well, there is that as well. Michael Onyewike from Marina says, regarding the huge cash in circulation outside the banking system, the banks are not the issue. The masses are equally not the issue. Think about it. How many Nigerians have sufficient cash to stash under their beds? We all know the culprits. I wonder who the culprits are. Anyways, maybe let's get back into the story concerning ECOWAS. Now, the second part of the story has to do with ECOWAS approving the withdrawal of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso from the bloc from January 29, 2025. They've, however, given the three countries up till July next year to reconsider their planned withdrawal from the regional bloc. So they're saying as of January 29, 2025, you guys are going to be, or you guys are free to leave the bloc, but we're leaving the door open at least up until July in case you decide to make a return. Now, looking at what's been going on in these three countries, in Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso, the common theme there is they've experienced military coups in those countries, and also they've been pulling away from their colonial masters there. That's France. So they're leaning more towards Russian relations and so on and so forth. Now, looking at what they decided to do here to leave ECOWAS, could this be them, number one, trying to make a statement, and number two, doing what is best for them, looking at, okay, our involvement in ECOWAS, our being a part of ECOWAS, how much of a benefit has it been to us? There's no point. Let us move.
This is actually what I was getting at. In recent times, I think two of those countries, Mali and Burkina Faso, are alleged to have paid off their debts, almost all, as in they have cut off any ties, if financial obligations to a lot of those Bretton Woods institutions and all that. And one important thing you said is that in many cases, they seem in this instance to have brought much more benefits to their people. So, sitting from a perspective of one of those people in those countries, it'll be as if when we were in ECOWAS, we seem to always be strung along. We were just one of those countries. In many of those places, they're almost like wastelands. But
Mm,
now that they have left ECOWAS, maybe it's one of those coincidences that it happened to be that they left ECOWAS and now their economies have improved to the extent where they're paying off debts. I think it also has to do with them shrugging off their colonial overlords, France, the people that we are now cozying up to, interestingly enough. But sitting from where they're looking, I would be just as happy to throw off ECOWAS. We are the big people in the room when it comes to ECOWAS, so you can understand that we would want to keep it going because it gives us a platform to showcase ourselves. But at the end of the day, like you said in the story, that we have taken note of their decision to leave. Or what? What would they have done? Are we going to go and force them? At first, our president was trying to go and fight in Niger Republic until got a friendly warning from parts of northern Nigeria that any war against Niger might be seen in a very hostile light. And he stepped back wisely. And that reminds me, 4 days ago, the president has said they're going to treat the matter of these three countries leaving ECOWAS with wisdom. So my question was, before that 4 days ago, were they not using wisdom to think about it? I'll just say this. Those countries appear to have taken their fate in their own hands. If and when ECOWAS seems to present an advantage, I dare say they may consider it. But let's really look. How come is it coincidental that now that they've left ECOWAS and left their colonial masters, if you want to call that, they
mm,
seem to be trying to focus more on the needs of the people? I think of Niger Republic. I think of what France has done. I think of the fact that Niger Republic is one of the most electricity poor countries in the whole wide world, having been under France for so long. And since they kicked them out, people in France are beginning to, in Niger, are beginning to see the
Niger.
benefits of their own country's resources. If I were them, I too would look at ECOWAS askance.
Hmm. All right, let me do one message here. This is from Ajayi Oluniluwa, who says the poorly executed Naira redesign policy, coupled with the Nigerian factor in the activities of the POS operators, is responsible for the scarcity of cash, as the banks now give cash to POS operators instead of their customers. The issues we have in this country are actually quite plentiful, and these things are really really true, because you go to the banks even till now. Sometimes to get cash from the ATMs can be difficult. There's a limit to how much you can actually take out. Even in the banks, there's a limit to how much you can take out over the counter. But when you go to the POS operators, they are doing brisk business. And someone told me a couple of days ago, I think on Saturday or thereabouts, that now I think they slightly increased the charges on the withdrawals you make now. I don't know how true that is. I haven't gone to any POS operator in the last couple of weeks or thereabouts. But if anyone actually has and can confirm that those charges that they charge have gone up, please send a message to let us know. I'm curious to know if that is the case.
The main thing I would say about the difference between the bank ATM and the POS operator, apart from those charges, is the assurance. When you go to a POS operator, they'll tell you whether they have cash or not.
Or
If you
not.
go to an ATM, you'll put your card in. The chance could be that you could get cash, or if your card gets stuck, you have this very obnoxious process where even if it's your bank, they will destroy the card and tell you to come for a new one. I've never seen anything as useless as that policy. So at the end of the day, I don't want to risk my card being seized by the machine. And so it seems easier for me to go to POS. That policy, I've suffered it two times, is the most obnoxious policy at your own bank. Not that you went to a different bank. So you go to the bank with that card, for whatever reason your card is seized, and they tell you it's been destroyed, you have to get in, when they can simply open the machine and give you your card having confirmed your identity. I have never seen anything so backward.
Let's head into the into the Daily Post. I'm laughing because I saw someone who suffered this 2 or 3 weeks ago or thereabouts, and
It's crazy.
it was quite a spectacle at
Exactly.
the ATM
Banking
there.
hall.
Mm. Anyways, let's head into the Daily Post here. The Supreme Court will today determine the fate of President Bola Tinubu in a fresh suit seeking his removal from office as Nigeria's president. Now, the new suit is praying the apex court to sack Tinubu on two major grounds of alleged non-qualification to hold office as Nigeria's president and usurpation of the same office against the law of the country. Now, a candidate in the 2019 presidential election on the platform of the Hope Democratic Party, that's HDP, Chief Ambrose Albert Owuru filed the fresh suits directly at the Supreme Court. Now, in this particular suit, the defendants therein are former President Muhammadu Buhari, the AGF Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, the INEC as well, and of course President Tinubu as the first to the fourth defendants, respectively. AB, please.
I will just say this. If this suit has any legs, I will eat my hat on air with salad cream. They say don't speak about an ongoing suit, so I can only say to the extent that this is an administrative or legal matter, and within a short enough time, which is a couple of days, we will know what comes of it. But I highly, highly doubt that this will have any legs. Indeed, this person was actually fined a certain amount for a similar suit where he was supposed to pay 40 million to be paid to Tinubu, INEC, and others for a lawsuit against them that happened earlier. So this is yet another one that he is coming up with. Again, it's in court, and so
Mm.
we will hear the answer, shortly hereafter. But I really think this will not fly just because of a number of reasons that I suspect to be in place. Let's leave it at that.
Mm. Let's leave it at that. I mean, it's in court right now, so we need to tread very, very
Carefully.
carefully
Exactly.
around this issue. I just needed to bring it up and bring it back into the consciousness of everyone out there. Let's finally talk about Governor Umoen of Akwa Ibom State. He's in the news, and this story is coming out of the Premium Times. Now, he has unilaterally backed out of an agreement with the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, to begin payment of the new minimum wage in December, over a week after signing it. Now, the governor had approved 80,000 naira as the new minimum wage for workers in the state, an amount which is 10,000 naira higher than the 70,000 national minimum wage approved by the federal government. Now, unlike his counterpart in River State, Sim Fubara, who approved 85,000 naira as minimum wage and began payments in November, with October areas to come later, Mr. Eno insisted that the implementation of the new minimum wage can only commence after staff verification. And the first thing that came to mind is, if you knew that you were going to do some sort of staff verification, why then did you agree with the NLC to begin at a particular time when you knew that you were not ready? I mean, it's not a good look to have an agreement in place and then back out of it. And from the words that he spoke and the things that were said, it seemed like, okay, I have backed out. You cannot force me. There's nothing you can do about it. I will implement when it is time. It's more or less the message I got from this.
Now, he is not saying that there were like two tracks from the story. One track was, he's already agreed to pay the higher thing, but has said he wants a staff verification. I don't know whether he's just entering office and whether this could not have been done in the past 18 months. But he's saying, I want to know who I am paying. On the surface of it, that's not a bad thing. He has said, failing that, I will pay a 13th month, but I'll pay a 13th month to those I don't know. Because those are the two tracks. He's saying, I'll pay a 13th month to those I have not verified and who I don't know, but at the old rates. So I would say to those who are involved, at the end of the day, they too should be interested in knowing that it is only legitimate workers who are paid. Because I really don't see the point of even promising to pay the old wage to unverified people. The next thing is that this verification process surely shouldn't become one of those never ending things that you hear about where people are being verified for weeks, months, and years at a time. In today's world where you're talking about, we're talking about why people don't trust banks and all that, it should be possible to get this done literally in 1 week. And let's never forget, honestly, it's something we have to remind ourselves. By the grace of God, Christmas is coming this year, and it shall come as the good Lord tarries next year. I think we all have to get less agitated as Christmas comes because some people put themselves under a lot of pressure. And the
Mm.
whole, I would say, if I were in the hands of some of the workers, I'd rather get that larger amount when it's due to me than make an unnecessary fuss. Because the story says he might have a fallout with Labour. I would not expect Labour to have any fallout. In fact, if anything, Labour should be the first and quickest to facilitate that verification, if anything,
Right.
so that they can get the money. But other than that, I don't hope to hear of strikes and the like when you talk about having problems with Labour. But let's wait and see. I would say there should be no reason why a governor should be promising to pay the old wage to people who he's not sure are actually in service. And he cited what they call Japa syndrome. He said some people have moved on, they are still collecting salary. So yes, let's do the verification, but he should have done it much earlier before now, unless he's
Mm.
not a forward-looking governor. When I remember when all these governors or at least their representatives were going to go and sit down with 500 billion naira or so as their sitting allowance to determine, I remember nothing came out of it. So in that time, they could have been verifying. So I think he has dropped the ball too by waiting till this last minute to ask for a verification. The governor, that's what I'm talking about.
All right. Let's do messages as we pack our bags to head out of Freshly Pressed this morning on YouTube. Oyewale says, yes, it's gone up from 200 per 10,000 to 300 naira. That's concerning the POS charges. Olajuwon Adebayo also agrees that they have increased their charges. Anik Arinze says, ECOWAS is not a serious body. On WhatsApp, let me see. OJ says, maybe banks really have no money. Many cash-based businesses no longer deposit their money in the bank. They give it to POS operators. I've seen filling stations that have POS operations. I've also seen that, and they do a whole circulatory thing from the pump to the operators and so on and so forth. Ridiculousness all around. Tony from Lagos Metropolis says, um, please tell AB I will join him in eating my left shoe and extra mayo if the lawsuit against the president has any legs whatsoever. Okay. Well, I hope you have really nice shoes if you're going to actually do that. Um, Michael says, I completely agree with AB. I have lost faith in the ATMs of banks because most of them don't have cash. I was at the bank yesterday evening. The security guard should have said no cash, but he sat down looking at all of us that came to withdraw. This is the same security guard that will walk up to you when you withdraw saying, "Oh, God, happy weekend." I think CBN should start penalizing banks with huge fines and monitoring their ATMs because this wasn't the case before. Catch says it's actually true that POS operators have increased their charges for 5,000 naira. Charge is now 200. The higher the withdrawal, the higher the charge. Julius Ramikeja says, please let's not be misled by planted reports of economic progress in the Sahelian backwaters. Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are breeding terrorists day in, day out. There also is that problem there. Let me see. Ayola Akinfala says, the cash situation is driven by three things. One, inflation. Prices of commodities, especially food, have more than doubled. So people need twice or thrice as much cash as they needed 2 months ago. Also, electronic payment adoption is still very low in certain parts of the country for obvious reasons. We kind of alluded to that as well. And the CBN does not seem to be interested in its cashless policy anymore for reasons that have been adduced already on the show this morning. Sunday says, I can confirm that the charges of POS withdrawals have actually gone up. Okay, so a number of confirmations on that matter, AB.
And
Nigeria.
nobody telling us about whether cash is available at ATM. So everybody's talking about POS. There you go.
Hmm. The gift that keeps on giving. Anyways, we need to call it a morning. Thank you so much for your message. And thank you so much, AB, for taking out the time to join me very early this morning on Freshly Pressed.
Thank you. The pleasure and privilege are both mine. You all have a wonderful week ahead.
All right. And you too. And once again, thank you all for keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Do not go anywhere. We're going to get into the world of sports in the locker room at 8:15. And my shoulders are sky high. And I'm pretty sure you know I will talk about that and a lot more at that time.